Difference of those gives you 6,579,000. That's, that would be on the balance sheet if these rules were already effective.
Okay.
You'd be looking at, your balance sheet would have a liability on it of 6,579,000. But in fact, you won't have to have that for at least 4 more years, so.
I'm sort of sold here. What page are you on?
We're on page 5 of the big
It
report.
looks like this.
I don't see that here.
It says draft.
I got page 1 and 2, are you 6%?
You're, I think you're too far into it. Go back, go towards the front of it.
Here.
Go all the way to the front of
The
the,
same time.
Is it lower?
So.
It's lower.
it should be
Supposed to be
lower.
lower. Yeah, some
Yeah.
things happened. The downsizing helped to reduce
Yeah.
that number.
By 400 grand?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
if you go back to, you know, to your,
For whatever reason, there's.
Well, the other thing
There
that
was
is
some
making the number
changes.
lower is you're gonna make a big contribution of about 1.3 million into the trust sometime probably very soon. That's part of why it's lower.
After we.
yes, well, essentially.
We have,
Essentially,
we have it set
yes.
aside to
Mhm.
put.
Why haven't we written a check?
Because it's meeting with PARs and then setting up, okay, what are the there's different categories of how you wanna invest. So it's getting them to come out here, meeting with them and showing, and verifying where is it that we're gonna put, how risk averse or.
I thought we'd been through that.
I think that's partly been resolved. Like the discount rate is, you know, the 1,299,000 is based on that 6% discount
I
rate.
thought we were writing the check a long time ago.
Yeah, no, I'm meeting with them, I need to, PARs have been in communication.
Check, we're just waiting to figure out what the allocation should be.
Right.
Well, that's been done.
Cash, let's see.
Well, have we made that decision on the allocation? Did they come out here? I'm trying
No.
to think back.
We've had a meeting with them on the allocation.
That might have been before you were here, Robert. Yeah, I think there
think
was
you
some
did.
discussion. I wasn't here, but yeah, that was my understanding in talking
Yeah,
to
that was
PERS.
all decided some time ago.
Yeah, I talked to PERS about, or PARS about 6 months ago. I talked to a couple of their
I
people.
wouldn't think you'd reinvent the wheel every time, there must have been.
Yeah, I'd have to I'll verify.
Something codified.
Plan put in place that says we're gonna put
We need to go back in the minutes and figure that out, because I'm pretty sure we did.
Well, I think it was a council decision.
That's before you were here,
We did it
Robert.
with something.
Yeah.
I don't know
It
what
was when the young lady was still here, I think.
Louis Ho.
Deborah
Louise, yeah.
Ocker.
No, I'm not sure there's Deborah.
It was
Louise,
Louise.
yeah.
I think that number is good, and you might have to talk to PARS again just to see if they understand how to allocate that money.
No, and that's
We ought to
what
get
I
in
want
the
to
bucket.
verify.
and-
Yeah,
And
where
start,
Greg's
Get it
yeah.
in the bucket.
We're not getting anything for it in the bank, that's for sure.
Can you help me understand this? Here, on this particular set of assumptions, we're going to end 2013 with a $7.7 million unfunded actuarial accrued liability. But in our balance sheet from June 30, 2012, it says net OPEB obligation, 1.585 million.
Yeah.
right.
Right, let me try to explain that. Under the existing accounting rules, and here is where they're gonna change greatly when the new rules come out in a few years. Under the existing accounting rules, they came up with a formula as to how much you should contribute. It's called the annual required contribution.
Yeah.
And that's like an annual amount, it includes amortization of some of the top numbers here. And that's the number they're saying, this is what we think the appropriate funding would be if you want to fund. But if you don't fund it, you're gonna have to put a liability on your balance sheet. But now, when the new rules come out, they're gonna make this top number, this 7.7 million or 6.6 million, the whole thing goes onto the balance sheet.
Yeah,
So that's the difference.
That number
yeah.
came from this interim statement, which you passed out, I believe, the last time we
Yeah,
met,
yeah.
which has nothing to do with the one that the city council acted on and generated the 1.299 contribution, and nothing to do with the one you gave us today.
Well,
Which
no,
is enough to drive me crazy.
no,
And it's really early for me. But that's where that number came from, right here.
yeah.
So you must have given somebody that number back
We did.
when this was.
That was based on the last year evaluation we did.
Yeah. Which is,
I switched from Geico to regular.
Yeah, it's $1,299,000 and change, right, that's the number I've been carrying around with me.
What we will contribute to PARS is the 1.29, the 1.2 million.
Yeah.
The 1.5 is at the end of the fiscal year, and going through what we should have contributed, the difference was the 200 something thousand, to make it the 1.5.
Yeah, you're
net
playing some catch-up
obligation.
football with that
So we
number.
do have that on our books, the 1.58 million. So the difference of the 1.2 and the 1.5 would be an additional that we would bring back to say, okay, do you want to fund this also? And we would put that also in the trust. So then the trust would end up having the 1.585. The only reason we put this in here is because we know we have the audited financial number, so we want to start with what's on our books. So that's, the 1.585 is what's on our books.
We've moved from a philosophical argument of $10 million unfunded and whether we should show it and get ahead of the accounting rules now to just back into the minutia. I'm still stuck on the philosophical thing. Do we think, should we look forward to being ahead of the pending accounting changes?
Well, that's why I asked him whether it was
And I thought
permissible.
that's what we're on, and now we're back down into the,
Well, isn't it a matter of having roughly accurate financial
oh, yeah, no,
statements?
the accuracy would come. I'm still just the general
Yeah.
philosophical issues. Should we or should we not? You know, as a finance committee discloses, we should.
I just think the state of California is littered with cities that made bad decisions based on false,
Not had good numbers, yeah.
false numbers.
Well, where is it made to? Is it in these?
I'm assuming the
these
numbers are
certified?
pretty accurate.
Okay.
This is on the
Is
state
it
level.
two?
Yeah.
That's the
It's in there, yes.
Where?
It's in
Footnotes?
the footnote number 8, I believe.
$1.2 million or $1.5 million?
It's $1.5 million.
Yeah,
The
it's
$1.5 million has that 1.2 million in there.
Yeah, it should be in your liabilities, it may not be a standalone
It's in
item,
our
but it's in
liability.
there.
It's only
It's on
liability.
page 51, if you're looking for that 1.5,
51?
page 51 on the financial statements.
It's in there.
It's,
So we have a set of financial statements that the auditors prepared here. Are you saying that we could modify the footnote to include a large liability based upon assumptions we make here?
and actually the actual accrued liability is already part of the footnotes already.
The 1.5 is, yeah.
Correct. But the 7.5, I do not have it exactly, but if you look at page 51, the actual accrued liability is it's disclosed down there. It's the 1.5 million is there, and then the actual unfunded the actual unfunded liability is as of the latest date.
so you've already.
Well, down here,
Yeah,
7.599?
correct.
Okay,
Correct.
okay.
So it is in there, on a disclosure basis.
Correct. It is disclosure basis. Correct.
Yeah.
It is,
But not on our books.
But
It's
nobody
just-
knows yet out there
Right.
that you're
Right.
gonna have to move that thing up to your balance sheet in a few years, that's,
Well, I understand
yeah.
that, but the thing that's not on here would be the
The
pension?
3 million,
Yeah.
No, not the 3,
the 10.
the 10.
The 10. The
It
10
should
million.
be,
The ten-
well, it's not on the
correct.
balance sheet. It's-
Correct.
it's-
Because
it's
it's
not
based on
right.
balance sheet.
The
It's
10 million.
it's kind of indirectly on page 48. Because on page 48, we disclose on the financials, we disclose a statewide pool because Atherton is part of statewide pool. And in it, we kind of disclose how much percentage of Atherton's is in or part of the statewide pool. So,
So what, but there's no number there that translates, okay, this is what Atherton would look like, $10 million.
Mhm.
if you
Well, you take the percentage you
correct,
calculate.
yeah, correct, yeah.
But, who's going to,
Take
Yeah, well,
that
why
out.
don't we?
or why don't we include that in our footnotes?
Yeah, we can,
Okay.
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
a
so,
good
yeah.
idea.
So if we had those two numbers in our footnotes, then we could put together a financial look, including those two big liabilities that aren't in the certified statements. We could pull those out and say, okay, residents, here's what the balance sheet should look like if we had the same accounting principles as the private world
Yeah.
in general.
Right, in general, because I
Yeah.
think it's because it's accounting rules, the measurements are a little bit, they are very specific,
Maybe
but
we
generally,
shouldn't
yeah.
say as the private sector, but just, full
Well,
disclosure.
People are thinking in terms of-
Similar, yeah,
That's
similar.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're,
Yeah.
you wanna be careful how you word it, obviously.
Yeah,
You know, Not to
exactly.
scare people too much.
Right.
Well, but it's,
Well, but
it's,
you gotta-
it's-
You gotta scare people.
Disclosure.
You gotta scare people
Yeah.
somewhere.
Not even to scare them, it's
Yeah.
just to,
To let them know, if, why didn't you tell me before? You don't want that to happen, why didn't you tell me last year if you knew about this?
yeah,
Yeah,
you know.
So all the data's here, you just need to calculate it.
Right.
The percentages times the,
Well, I'm not sure that we can calculate that. Maybe you can calculate that. You're not, it's not a simple ratio.
yeah, it's just taking
Yeah,
those
it's-
percentages and applying it to the,
You're not gonna get to 10 million that way, I don't think.
No, and I think what the new statements just came out for CalPERS, so that includes us, so.
what discount rate they're using,
For,
the new statements?
For the pensions.
they were using 7.25. Or
They're still using-
7.5.
So, yeah.
7.5,
Yeah.
yeah.
7.5, something like that.
7.5, because it was 7.75 in, up until like September,
So that's
October.
way understating really what,
well,
long term.
I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah, it is. You're not gonna earn 7.5.
Well, Greg, it's a judgment call,
Yeah, it is.
but, it's not rocket science or something, but on the other hand, reasonable common sense tells you we're risking a lot if we bank on that rate of return.
Well, the market gave us 15% in the last 12 months. And if you go back 50 years, 8 to 10% is reasonable.
Yeah.
You sound like Malcolm.
Huh?
I don't believe it.
Yeah,
I don't
well,
believe it.
One thing I didn't
I like
know,
doing facts, that's the facts.
But not going forward.
one thing I didn't know and still don't understand is somebody was talking early today about a 50% increase, some kind of a 50% increase.
Yes, I've got an article that says 50% over the next 5 years.
Yep.
So does that mean the contribution that they're gonna make?
Well, we had pre-funded some of it.
Over a 30-year horizon.
We've mitigated that by pre-funding some on in the side, some.
Right. And that one, the only one that we have left, the only true one unfunded liability is the miscellaneous side fund, which we will pay by the end of this
Don't
June.
use the word true.
Well, within the accounting
The
rules.
official accounting rate.
Right,
knows it is.
right, exactly, that's what I meant. As far as the accounting rules, and what we're required is the 704,000 in miscellaneous side fund. Once that's paid off, that's done. And, we're ahead as far as that, so if the changes come, and when they come down the road in a couple of years, then we're basically paid up to
But
what.
that's so misleading, I think, in terms of telling our residents that everything is fine, when it's not. When you look out there, this big nut
Yeah.
has to be paid
Well, the thing is,
by
like you
future
said,
generations.
Right. And I think, the way we're doing it is we get the rates through them and we pay them
Yeah, I
the
understand.
contributions, and a lot of it's just based on the market rate, but in the report, you see there's been a couple of years where there was double-digit returns, that they were showing. And then there's the big loss in 2007, about 27%. But, I mean, it's something that, we can
I
show.
think some people think about that, the stock market is really booming lately because the Federal Reserve is cranking down interest rates so low that people decide they have to shift to something riskier. And if, as and when the day comes, that they let interest rates on government bonds go back to their normal market level, which is more like 5%, then that's,
Well,
then some of that 15% increase is gonna go away.
Yeah.
So while you were gone last time, we had actually asked them to provide us with what like-kind cities were doing.
Yeah.
So this is actually an excellent analysis. So I actually, even though we were pushing for the 4.5% as a more realistic number, the 6% actually, I still believe 5 is a proper number, but it's not out of boundaries.
What
You're
other
not to
towns
say that
are
we have to
using
do-
the 7.75?
Yeah.
And not to say that we have to do what everybody else is doing, we don't jump off the bridge just because.
But the thing I'm concerned about is the inconsistency between the two, between the healthcare and the pensions.
Mhm.
The one we're using 6%, the other one we're using 7.5. So
I can explain part of that difference, and you can buy it or not buy it, but, the CalPERS fund is invested pretty aggressively, the pension fund. They're like 65% equities, 35% other stuff. I don't know exactly how it's invested, but their investment advisors tell them you should be able to earn in the long term 7.5% on that. Now, the fund you're gonna have with PARS is more conservatively invested. I'm guessing it's more like 50% equities and 50% more conservative stuff.
Well, we decided to look at that. see what-
The pensions have a lot of real estate, and PARS did not.
I think that's right. I'm not sure if there's any real estate in PARS or not. But so part of the difference is if you buy that stocks are supposed to earn more than fixed income in the long run, then part of the difference between the 7.5% and 6% discount rates is how the money's invested.
Well, we need to explain that to the reader and say, the reason it's different is we have different investment policies, and we can control one and we can't control the other.
That's
We can't
right.
control
I still
one.
can't
think
control
7.5% is
CalPERS.
way too high, though.
Pardon?
I think 7.5% for our
Yeah.
purposes here is way too high.
Well, one advantage you have of not having a CalPERS thing for the retiree medical is you get to make the decisions on what you want to do.
Right.
In the pension, you don't.
Well, we can in terms of this extra financial statement.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you can do that, yeah.
How could we do that? Do what?
I'm talking about a theoretical financial statement has a lower discount rate.
It would have to be through
No, it doesn't.
CalPERS would have.
No, it doesn't. It could be an assumption that we make here.
Yeah, but that would strictly be a counter to what their professional advisors are telling you.
Well, their professional advisors are telling them they're gonna have to change their discount rate out in the future.
Well, they did, they went down.
You're gonna have to go down again.
Well, when that
Oh, I
got.
I mean,
disagree
they
with you.
suddenly came out of the blue and
Yeah,
said
exactly.
the contributions we're gonna have to make are gonna go up 50%. So,
Over a 30-year amortization probably.
I mean, the up 50% is gonna continue for 30 years.
Well, they'll amortize that over
Yeah.
whatever the difference is.
Well,
Would
I
it
don't think
be-
we can make
Yeah,
any
well,
assumptions.
I don't think we should spend any more time on it.
Well,
we have-
particularly on this health thing, when we don't even know anything about PAR's historic rate of return, or what investment advice we get, what investment.
Or what decision we made.
Exactly. So we're spinning our wheels. I mean, you talk about PERS, because at least you have some documents.
Is it
That's not
possible
what
for
we're
PARs
talking
to
about.
present themselves again? That they must have presented themselves originally.
Yeah, I have a note to look and verify, and I can get them.
See if they can meet with us. Because I mean, if they did before, I assume they can do it now, because we got a lot of new members, and Al and I don't remember very well.
It was requested last time as well.
So, but I've had that problem for 40 years, so.
If you wanted to spend just a minute on where do you stand, compared to the other.
We've got you off track, so let's get you
That's
back on
useful.
track.
Okay, I guess I just at this point have two points. One point is, do you think you wanna do something in your June 13 financials coming up in a few months? Do you wanna talk about this? Do you wanna put some kind of a statement in there, that this is coming down the pipe? Particularly on the pension, which is only 1 year down the pike, and then the other one is about four years down the pike, and then what do you wanna put in there? I mean, it seems to me, I would like to put something in there, so that when you do put it in, why didn't you tell me sooner? Why didn't you let me know that this was coming down the pike, this is gonna be a big
Well, we want to
deal?
be able to talk about it, I think, too, in terms of with our residents in the near future.
Mhm.
You know, you need to have some basis for it, rather than just picking something out of the air.
Gatsby's gonna
Yeah.
require that next year.
It's for the year, fiscal 14-15, I think.
Correct,
Isn't it?
correct.
Year ending 6/30/15 is when it's required. Question is, can you do it earlier? Do you wanna do it earlier, and can you? And I'm not sure,
If you do earlier, you have to convince CalPERS to implement it earlier,
Yeah.
because of the measurement date.
so.
Well, they have to do it.
They have to do it earlier, so that they can provide
Let's
information
put
to
it in
the
the
town.
financial, let's put it in the financial statements, but you can put it in the footnotes as a prospective thing, can't you?
Correct,
Yeah.
you can put it as perspective, but the measurement of the actual net pension liability, the measurement has to be done by CalPERS. So CalPERS will have to
But
measure.
estimated upon the pool that you had and applying the percentage and so forth, was that the estimate?
It sort of changed a little bit, so it's, you know.
Plus or minus 5%?
Yeah,
But I think
possible.
he has certain rules that he
Yeah.
has to
Oh, I
follow.
understand that,
Exactly.
yeah.
So keeping it into assumptions or a futuristic date is probably the appropriate way
Yeah,
to
yeah.
footnote it,
Sure.
and not to ask them to change
Or
their
we,
practices. Wouldn't-
No, I'm not asking to change his practices, I'm just asking a more elaborate footnote.
Oh,
Okay.
absolutely, yeah.
Respective
Yeah.
information.
Instead of page
Absolutely.
48, maybe page
Correct.
3. Yeah.
Correct.
And bold.
And
Full print.
what I suggest that the financial statements can do also in the MD&A, in the management
Right.
slash analysis,
Yeah.
go into a more detailed
Maybe
discussion.
that's where,
Right,
because that
yeah.
would be highlighted more there up in
Correct.
front with the management discussion.
And then perhaps even on 48, you can expand it so that you would have the Atherton's online. You know, so-
Atherton only.
Correct, correct.
yeah.
So that's
Correct, yeah.
Are you gonna do that for these things, you wanna draft one out?
One,
So the
two
management-
Even
cents.
right now on fiscal year 14,
Of
I
the other
think
municipalities.
we can do it because I think CALPS already provide the actual liability
For this next
for-
fiscal year that we're in, 12-13, it'll be in there.
In the management report.
Yes,
You mean June 13th?
yes.
You can't put it in this management report.
The only
We're not gonna
year-
change this report, is that right?
No, yeah, this already been issued.
It's
And then
finished, yeah,
12-13.
that's right, but I got a copy of it, I don't know whether it's
Yeah.
draft or final.
Yeah, our new report will go into next year's
Right.
financials.
Right, so
basically.
just so I understand this, because we're jumping around a lot between two different things. The number that will appear on page whatever it was, the financial statement, is gonna be $454,705.
That will be, no, that is for next fiscal year, that's the. that's
These
the
are all
projected
very
number.
published, so we can't.
Yeah.
No, no, I'm talking, at the end of this fiscal year,
Yeah.
we're gonna have paid the $1,299,000
Right.
someday.
Well, I'm sorry, you're right, it is,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is the 454,000.
454,705.
It is, I'm sorry.
So then, as long as we make the annual required contribution on an annual basis, for whatever reason, I don't know why, that number remains constant
The,
on our financials.
Correct.
the,
That's what I understand.
Because the annual required contribution is estimated based on return, inflation, all kinds of
Right.
junk. But the point is, every year, if nothing changed, we'd have $454,705 as a pension.
Right.
OPEB.
now, important point though is it's the annual, the $500,000 number, I'll call it. That includes all the benefits you're now paying out to retirees.
I
You're
know.
paying most of that now.
Yeah, I understand.
So your actual check to PARS is gonna be more like, in the hundred thousands. The difference between those two.
Right.
Now, the only other thing that, if you wanna go into this at all, Robert did some good work putting a spreadsheet together of what other municipalities in your neck of the woods are doing, and we looked at a few other of our clients. And in a nutshell, you guys are just, now that you've made the decision to start funding, you're gonna be right in the middle of the pack, basically, of what other practices are. Of the company, or of the cities in your neck of the woods, two are funding what you're now gonna be funding, the ARC each year, the annual required contribution, or actually it's the annual OPEB cost. But there's one other town that is only contributing about 2/3 of the annual required contribution, and there's another one that's doing about 136% of the annual required contribution. So you're kind of right in the middle of the pack, but somehow you guys are doing a lot more down here than my clients up north are doing. I picked 4 of my other clients that are fairly close by, that aren't doing any funding. So you guys down here collectively are doing a better job of funding than, your northern neighbors.
How far north you talking about? Bay Area?
Bay Area, Sausalito, Tiburon in Marin, closer, Coloma, Pacifica aren't contributing.
Sausalito's on here.
Sausalito's on here, but that didn't really address the funding, I don't think. Sausalito has not started to fund yet. Maybe, they're gonna probably have to at some point.
Correct, because Sausalito is on time.
You do Sausalito,
Correct,
yeah.
Sausalito.
I don't think they're actually funded
No,
into a trust.
So Los Altos and Woodside are overfunding.
Yes.
Is that how I read this?
Let's see, let me,
Yes, because they're in the credit.
They're credited negative,
Right.
so, okay, so they're overfunding by two.
Comparison of comparable cities.
Okay.
so, but you're really,
In the town, in the case of Woodside, they're using 7.75%
Rate of return.
return, so
Right.
that's cheating. Hillsborough and Moscatus are probably using a high rate, because otherwise the numbers would, they'd be staggering. They're in deep trouble.
when CalPERS formed their trust, everybody had to use 7.75 to get in. That was a requirement. And so some of them have just kept that, just inertia. And they've now loosened up on that and let you use lower rates. But you guys aren't in CalPERS, you're in the PARS trust, so. You can
CalPERS does have
They have a trust for the health side.
They have a trust similar to PARS. Originally, it was very restrictive, very rigid, and they've been forced to open it up and make it more flexible because of people like PARS, which you're in. That's just to say you don't have to use 7.75% in your discount rate. And don't have to use their investment allocation. They have some flexibility now. But they did that a little too late, and, in my opinion, and lost quite a few clients to people or firms like PARS.
I have another question.
Mhm.
On page 2, present value of future post-retirement medical benefits. I think that these numbers are, especially the top line, 1.8 million and 1.476, total 3.3 million, is active employees that exist and are on our payroll now. But as some of them retire, we're going to replace them, right? And then they're
Yeah.
going to,
Right.
and so this is not it's like a truncated.
It is. That question comes up fairly often.
Yeah.
Under everybody's rules, accounting and actuaries, valuations can only be done on the current population. So these numbers do not include the future people, young people that are gonna come in or
Yeah.
younger.
I don't know exactly what to do about it, but just it strikes me as overly optimistic.
Now you
Well-
mentioned the salary increases, we have it 3.5%,
That's an assumption.
it's pretty small.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
That's
pretty
it.
small.
That is what?
If they tie these two together, and they've got salary increases and projected salary and compensation increases of 3.25%.
Right. And
It's
that
very
was,
small.
that came from, that was
Very small.
mandated. That was-
I don't know.
Careful.
Now, that doesn't affect me very much on the retiree medical, because the medical benefits are not based on salary. Everybody gets the same thing. But the pension, it's very important,
It
because
is.
pensions are based on salaries.
So it's a lower number, I think, than what it should be on
Well-
projected futuristic compensation.
Whatever, healthcare doesn't make any difference.
I don't think so.
So,
It doesn't matter in the long run, and it doesn't really matter for the healthcare.
My reaction to this statement on page 13 is evaluation assumed that 3.25 annual rate of increase in payroll is, can we afford this?
Yeah.
Um,
You gotta look at
Some
your
people
real
just think
estate
it's low,
increase.
other people think it's high.
You gotta look at your real estate prints too.
What?
Increases, that's been a nice big increase past year, but that had been growing about 3%.
Okay.
Well, if we covered everything you wanted to cover,
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And just to,
we covered everything you wanted to cover.
on this, yes, and just to note, well, we're required to do these every 2 years, so.
Actually, every 3 years, I gotta be honest with you.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, unless something
Every
happens.
3 years.
If you downsize again, then you should do another one.
Right. And also what's included in here too is the new obviously the new assumptions, and one of these is the employee benefit resolution, which has a change in the health care. So that helped bring this down as well. The only thing is, I guess, just seeing what the committee recommends as far as what assumptions to go by for next year.
Robert, if I could, I misspoke a minute ago. There was one thing, I don't know if, there's a one-page exhibit
Yes.
in your materials that summarizes all 6 of the different assumption iterations that we did. And it was mentioned last time, I can't remember by who, that our assumption about future medical cost increases might be too high. It might be lower than that. And so if you have this sheet in front of you, we calculated the annual OPEB cost at 3 different points in time. The top half of the sheet is at our current medical trend rates, which have it going down to 5.5% per year when we get to that point in a few years. And we have another set lowering it 0.5%. 4.5 was mentioned here by somebody, but we're not comfortable going that low. So 5% is as low as, like if we're gonna take over a case, and they're using below 5, we can't work with them unless they'll agree to come up a little bit to a 5% annual. That's medical inflation.
You just think it's unrealistic to go below 5?
Yeah, that's what we think. My partner doesn't even like to go below 5.5, but I'm fine with 5. In fact, there's a lot of 5s out there, and only a few 4.5s, I think. So if you said, if you wanted to lower your cost and say, well, we want to knock it down to 5%, I'm fine with that. And this sheet shows you what the changes are in the annual OPEB cost. So that, I wanted to just get that out there.
And the numbers you gave us were at 5.5?
5.5, yeah.
Another question, page 7. The town pays 100% of premiums for any medical coverage in any family status. However, this is subject to a maximum monthly benefit of $1,247. So it's projecting way up. Whatever happens to medical inflation, that's our maximum monthly benefit.
My understanding that there's a cap on it. Now, are you gonna be able to hold that cap? When medical costs are double what they are now, it's questionable, but.
Well, that's another unrealistic assumption. I mean, it would be better if we kind of keyed it to whatever we think the Kaiser premium is going to be.
That was for the police force, that cap. And you're bringing up kind of a thorny issue in this whole area. And this relates to negotiated benefits. I mean, they're gonna, if next time you're negotiating with the police, I mean, obviously they want some things more than others, and you're gonna reach some kind of a compromise with what you give them. They might say, we'd rather have more salary, we'll let you keep this at $12.47.
Okay.
And it's questionable, we were instructed to assume that would not go up in the future.
That sounds like my story with the Congressional Budget Office. They're instructed to make a lot of unrealistic assumptions and then come out with it.
Yeah,
And I'm just concerned about the unrealism.
yeah, it's a very, very good point.
Was there any thought you have on Obamacare, whether that's going to affect us when that kicks in?
Well, the Democrats think it's gonna help, and the Republicans don't think it's gonna help. Would be my only comment, right? We haven't changed at all our assumptions after Obamacare. We just don't think we know whether it's gonna end up.
Well, if it's a better deal, would we have the option of leaving Mars and going to Obamacare?
Oh, you mean to the exchange?
I don't know.
You don't have any clients that have thought that through?
Not yet, not that I'm aware of. Nobody's talked to me about that.
It is an interesting issue.
Well, I just read 1,000 pages of the current accounting rules. I just finished my CPA training last week for a 2-year period, and I read 1,000 pages of new changes, and one of them, in fact, I intended to bring it. And next meeting I will. What a lot of corporations are doing is exactly that.
Oh, they're going to define contributions. Yeah, I know a little bit about that because I was an advisory board to a company called Extend Health, which created a private sector exchange for Medicare retirees. And like Ford Motor was one of them. They said, we want to make a defined contribution, a fixed amount of contribution, $2,000 a year for Medicare supplementals. And then the exchange presents them with a menu of different alternatives, costing more or less, and then people make a choice. If they want the more expensive one, it's gonna cost them, so they have to see value for money. And it's conceivable that something like that could.
Well, you'll keep us up to date if people start doing stuff that we aren't aware of.
I'll talk to my partner, he's has a little more expertise on Obamacare than I do.
Part of the issue,
But I don't-
you've got a restructuring the whole medical system in this country and how it's paid for,
Yeah.
compensated. I don't think anybody at this point, Democrat, Republican, or Independent, can
Nobody
say
knows.
what it's gonna look like,
Yeah.
cost-wise or anything else, because
Yeah,
at this juncture, it's a massive change.
But some corporations are doing things that,
Well, people are trying to do things, but that may not make the whole package, so what it looks like cost-wise and everything
if
else.
we have to, I'll bring Sally down, Sally Pipes, and let her tell you the nuances, but I don't know whether she charged me or not, but that's a thought. She's the president of Pacific Research Institute, and she's writing books on Obamacare, why the effects of it, really. So we'll see.
But
All right,
to the
well, we thank
extent,
you for coming.
to the extent it affects insurance rates, I would still think that CalPERS is gonna have
Let's say,
a very competitive rate. If they,
Yeah.
PARS or CalPERS?
CalPERS. PARS is only managing the money, we're paying the premiums to whoever, to the insurance carrier, which is CalPERS rates, right?
Well, is that right, we're paying CalPERS?
well,
and then
we
they're
are,
paying Blue
CalPERS is-
Cross and Kaiser
Right,
and.
is our healthcare rate, but what is changing is basically now it's a cafeteria plan where we're saying for an individual